One of the things that plagues Albany and government in general is the use of mandates and policy directives by unelected commissioners and lifetime government bureaucrats who often exceed the authority granted to them by the legislature. That's why confirmation hearings are so vitally important, particularly when you're talking about somebody who's the head of a department as significant as the Department of Health. The state's response to the COVID pandemic was, in my view, disastrous. New York State shut down businesses, literally forcing people out of their livelihoods and onto unemployment. They shut down schools and instituted remote learning for extended periods of time, the consequences of which are still being felt by our students, both emotionally and in their academic performance. And if you recall, the state government told us we weren't even allowed to attend church, synagogue, or mosque to pray, a decision that the United States Supreme Court later found to be flatly unconstitutional. Over 10,000 seniors died in nursing homes because of the state's decision to house COVID patients and place them among the most vulnerable populations with predictable and devastating results. Information was inconsistent, contradictory, and often simply wrong. And for that reason, I pressed the governor's nominee for Commissioner of Health, James McDonald, for a full and comprehensive review of the state's pandemic response if confirmed, in order to identify what went wrong and why, so we can avoid these tragic mistakes in the future and work to rebuild the public's trust. Another example of governmental overreach right here in our own communities is the state education department's decision to involve itself in the issue of school mascots. Now, as a result of the pandemic, it was reported last fall that our 3rd through 8th grade students statewide had proficiency rates of 40% in math and 50% in English. Yet instead of addressing that glaring issue, they have chosen to ban the use of Native American imagery and team names, finding names like the Wantagh Warriors, the Grand Avenue Middle School Braves, and the Massapequa Chiefs to be offensive. According to the SED and the State Board of Regents, those images must be removed and team names changed by the 2024-25 school year, or state school district funding can be pulled. What the state education department fails to understand is that in many areas of the state, including Long Island, team names and mascots are not just a source of community pride, but are a tribute to our heritage. Wantagh, for example, is not just a place. He was a person. Wantagh was the grand sachem of the Montaukett Indians, from whom much of Long Island, including present-day Wantagh, was purchased by early Dutch and English settlers. Massapequa was actually the name of an actual Native American tribe that inhabited Long Island. The decision by his state education department and the Board of Regents may have the well-intentioned goal of avoiding perceived offense, but the actual effect of their misguided, overbroad, and inflexible policy is to erase and rewrite history, damaging community pride and obliterating our common heritage, and costing local taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. In Wantagh alone, the cost of rebranding and removing Wantagh Warriors logos and name from the school, from the football field, from the gymnasium floor, team uniforms, and other areas will have an estimated $600,000 price tag. That's money that could be used to fulfill the actual mission of schools, which is educating kids. I've written a letter to the Board of Regents and State Education Commissioner Dr. Betty Rosa expressing not only my concern, but demanding that the department's directive be rescinded or at least modified to take into account the actual historical significance of the individual mascot on a case-by-case basis. Additionally, the notion that in this and other instances, the state education department has threatened to pull funding approved by the New York State legislature from school districts to enforce mandates that are not directly related to education is extremely troubling. As elected legislators, we determine school budgets. Unelected bureaucrats should not have the power to override those decisions on a whim. And that's why I've introduced legislation that would restrict the state education department's ability to pull school funding to only those circumstances where a school district's non-compliance presents a direct and immediate threat to the health, safety, education, and welfare of our students, faculty, staff, or visitors to school property. That bill, S6737, is currently in the Education Committee. In the meantime, though, please don't hesitate to reach out if I can be of assistance. My staff and I are here to help. You can reach my district office at 516-882-0690, my Albany office at 518-455-3161, or you can always shoot me an email at rhoads@nysenate.gov. Until next time, I'll see you soon.